This is Charleston's retirement coach, Brandon Bowen.
All right. I don't even know where to go with this conversation we're going to start this half hour with, except for to just rip the Band-Aid off and be like, well, Elon Musk said.
Well, I know. Is it like genius and brilliant or like ridiculous?
Crazy and genius tend to work hand in hand in many ways.
You discount it like, this is crazy until like he goes and lands
until
his
things happen.
Stuff on Mars.
I know.
That was like, how did he do that? Governments can't even do that.
So what we like to do here on Charleston's Retirement Coach is work to take things, headlines, stories, things you might have heard that's like, what? And unpack them a little bit on a local level, reminding you that Brandon is a local guy, a Charleston guy, offices in Mount Pleasant, lives in Mount Pleasant. We're here, we're local. And when it comes to big national news stories, we want to break them down and get some relevant understanding about what's going on. Mm-hmm. So what had happened was bold predictions are things that Elon is known for, big statements, big ideas. So recently, Mr. Musk was on the Moonshots podcast, which have you heard of the Moonshots podcast? I think it's some sort of tech podcast.
Yeah, I have not.
And Elon Musk said that AI, robotics, and energy advances will create so much economic abundance that saving for retirement will no longer matter. Elon's words, not ours, everybody, but this is more of what he said in this conversation.
Well, one side recommendation I have is don't worry about squirreling money away for retirement in 10 or 20 years. It won't matter. You won't need to save for retirement. If any of the things that we've said are true, saving for retirement will be irrelevant.
Services will be there to support you. You'll have the home, you'll have the healthcare, you'll have the entertainment.
The way this unfolds is fundamentally impossible to predict because of self-improvement of the AI and the accelerating timeline.
He just said you don't need to worry about saving for retirement. I mean, that's
the richest man in the world.
Right. How convenient.
Just said,
don't worry about it. It's just money.
I feel like he's,
His perspective is a little different than the rest of the ladies and gentlemen here in Charleston listening to us on WSC, Brandon.
Yeah.
Do you believe, I guess anything is possible. And in the world, the technology world, the digital world that we live in, if we've learned nothing, we know that anything is possible. So never say never. But that's a talk about bold statements. You don't have to save for retirement anymore. Don't worry about it.
I would say my clients are not buying that. Okay. They're like, because the last organization that they're going to put their hopes and dreams into would be AI.
Yeah.
Right. If you're 60 plus or minus, if you're 55 to, plus, this AI stuff is kind of, it's I'm going to keep it at an arm's length. It doesn't beat the way I used to do it kind of thing. Now there's stuff, of course, that nobody can argue, that the efficiency and nice improvements there. But if he's saying there's going to be all of his robots everywhere, well, I think the entry price is $30,000, right? So is everybody, how are we going to have not save for retirement because we get everything else is taken care of?
Right.
I don't know. So I think, let's talk back to you listening right now, right? Because, I would say that you're probably sitting here driving around or listening on the podcast and you're like, Brandon, my pension or lack thereof, right? Pensions and programs from Washington, D.C., those two things, I can put them in the same bucket. Or in the same toilet, It's like they are fleeting and fading. And I just, for example, the Piggly Wiggly situation here in Charleston, right? Mm-hmm. And that house is the guy, I guess he was the owner or whatever, the CEO of Piggly Wiggly. His house is for sale down on the Battery. He's got two pig statues right there at the front of it. I walked right past it the other day, but that's just a fresh reminder of I had a pension, right?
Yep.
But not anymore.
Yep.
I have a client, we've talked about it, who lost $700,000 in that whole deal.
I remember that story.
And yes. And he was one where I was blown away that he trusted someone again.
Right.
Trusted me to put this plan together. His wife was crying on the phone when I had to call and talk to her, just because she's like, we're just so scared.
I know.
Because of what happened.
Yeah.
And so, so putting your future hopes and dreams into something like that is a big deal. And I would say, there's a few times in our life where self-reliance, I would say, and maybe decisive action affect your future so much. Okay. So think back in times where you've had to make a decision in your life and you were like, if this is the last thing I do, if I die, this is going to work out, or I'm going to put everything I have into this.
Yeah.
I can tell you I remember back in 2008, I was in Atlanta, Georgia, worked at a high-end golf resort, and the 2008 crash happened. Well, I got laid off. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so then a friend of a friend gave me an opportunity in the insurance industry. So I started doing that and selling insurance back then. Mm-hmm. And at that time I had a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, 2 little girls, right?
Yeah.
Married, my girls, and they were counting on me. My wife she taught before we had kids. And so now she wasn't teaching. Right. So It was a situation of like one of those that I can think back in my life. And I said, I don't care what I have to do, what the hours I have to work.
Yeah.
I started driving about 30,000 miles a year. I would go meet people in their homes and help them understand federal benefits that they have and seeing if there was any opportunities. But you just think back, you're like, if this is the last thing I do, I'm going to give it my all.
Yeah.
And provide. That's what I feel I'm called to do. And I'm going to protect her, protect my kid. So I can remember that, and I'm getting goosebumps just thinking back to those days, and where you say like, this is who I am. I'm going to stake my person on this moment right here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I say that because, I believe right now, if you are listening and it's kind of on your shoulders here to plan out retirement for you or you and your spouse, right?
Yep.
I believe that this is that same moment of weight, that this moment is just as heavy. Okay. Where you're probably looking at those at this moment here, and you're like, okay, well, I've got a lot of decisions on my shoulders here, and I want to do the best I can. I've got to do the best I can for her, for him, for my kids. I've got grandbabies now. Like all of this, you feel all of this pressure and all these decisions that you have to make. And, a lot of times that can lead to paralysis, right?
Analysis paralysis. Yep.
Yes. Yeah. You're just like, I don't know. That sounds good. And then I'll read something else and they'll say, that's the worst decision I could make. And oh my gosh. And I talk to my friends and everybody's got an opinion on all this. It's just like, is there somebody who's unbiased? Is there somewhere I can just ask questions? And I feel dumb asking some of these questions. But I want to just be myself, and I want to talk to somebody. And that's why I do what I do. That's why I'm here. Mm-hmm. That's why we do the show. That's why we open up 5 spots every week for you listening to the radio show to pick up the phone and call in. Let me give you my number real quick. That's 843-890-2400. 843-890-2400. If you already say, yes, it's heavy. These decisions, I've been putting it off, and I've got to make some decisions. Pick up the phone, call or text my office right now, 843-890-2400. You can text the word playbook to Tanya. She's standing by right now. I would love to put you on the calendar and give you one of those 5 spots. So when you reach out to us, here's what we're going to talk about when you come in. We're going to have a first appointment where we sit down, and it's just casual conversations, right? Mm-hmm. I want to know what all you've done for retirement. What do we have to deal with, right? Lay it all out on the floor.
Yep.
Or table. Lay it all out on the table. What kind of, accounts are we working with? What kind of debt do we have? What obligations? What kind of income sources do you have going on? Right? Because it is a puzzle.
Yeah.
It's a puzzle, right? So we've got to play this game. And all the while we've got Uncle Sam watching right over our shoulders here for taxes. Mm-hmm. They're good. They're just watching, got their glasses, their magnifying glasses. They're like, any move we make, it could trigger taxes. We got to minimize it. So we got to play this game and minimize our taxes and maximize how much you keep in your pockets. Okay.
Yep.
So that's what I want to do. And so here's where we start. We start by building your income plan. Okay. That is the most important. Income always has been the most important in your life. You were working, you had a job. If you lost your job or got laid off, like I was just talking about, that is the most scary time, because you're like, what are we going to do? And you've got your expenses don't stop. That happens in retirement, right?
Right.
The expenses don't stop, and so this income here, you've got just a bucket of money, a pile of money, and that money's got to always be providing you income, okay? Because the expenses don't stop. You got grandkids, right? So we've got various levels of guarantees and protection. And I want to know maybe what percentage of your, income do you want to be protected?
Okay.
What percentage do you want to know is always going to be there? Some clients say, hey, I want 50% to always be there, or I want 70%. Okay. Mm-hmm. Different levels, right? Because we can do that. We can make sure that it's nice and protected for you.
Okay.
Your investments, we need to know how aggressive do you want to stay with that? No longer do you need to pursue growth, maximum return for some distant date in the future for retirement. No, retirement is here, right? Yeah. So it's like we're slowing down. We're taking the next exit, right? We've got to slow down here. We've got to put some guardrails up. We've got to say, okay, well, why do we even need to take this risk anymore? If we have another market crash, when we have another market crash, how's that going to affect your peace of mind?
Yeah.
Right. Yep. I've got clients where they come in and I start showing them here, and I review our, 1 year anniversary, 2 year anniversary. I say, and they'll go, Brandon, this is working beautifully. I love it here. And I'll say, great, but let me be pessimistic for a minute. Let's say we're on the verge of a crash. Let's say the market's about to crash here, starting in about a month or two, and we're going to go down 50%. Okay. Have you ever thought of that? And they're like, yeah, all the time. Mm-hmm. Right. And I'm like, let me walk through each one of these buckets and tell you what's going to happen here, right? Because we've got some buckets set up that are unaffected by a market crash, okay? We've got some buckets here that they're out of equities, okay? They're fully liquid, but they're in other defensive income-producing strategies, right? So a retirement planner, somebody that you're working with, should be planning pessimistically, should have a plan in place for when we have our next market crash, okay? Right. And that is what I have just described, what my customized retirement playbook looks like. Okay. It's a playbook here where we plan out your income, your investments, your tax strategies. We plan pessimistically here. We design it to have all of your money turn around and face you, start paying income. So you can have that peace of mind, that stability. You can sleep 8 hours a night knowing that you've done it. You've made the right decisions for you and your family. You've put that plan together here. You've got a partner. You've got an advisor that you can call, you can text, right? You can bounce questions off of, and that's why I'm here. So pick up your phone. I know it's right next to you. That number is 843-890-2400.
Thanks for listening to Charleston's Retirement Coach Podcast with Brandon Bowen. To learn more, visit bowenwealth.com and join Brandon for his radio show, Charleston's Retirement Coach, Saturdays at 11 a.m. on 94.3 WSC.
Financial professionals are not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if J. Brandon Bowen is licensed in your state, please call 843-203-2030. J. Brandon Bowen is an investment advisor representative of Bowen Wealth, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Exposure to ideas and financial vehicles discussed should not be considered investment advice or recommendation to buy or sell any financial vehicle. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. Investments can fluctuate and when redeemed may be worth more or less than when originally invested. J. Brandon Bowen is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency and does not provide legal or tax advice. Annuity guarantees rely solely on the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance and annuity products offered through Bowen Wealth, LLC, insurance licensed in South Carolina. Market Guard is a registered investment advisor with the SEC and provides model portfolios only to Impact Partnership Wealth. Market Guard makes no implied warranties or representations and is not liable for any data presented.